Hello, good morning. My name is Shion Laura, and I welcome you to another episode of Sunday Morning Dose. Here at Sunday Morning Dose, we look at God's Word from Christ's perspective. We usually say to ourselves here that if it will not make sense to Christ, our progenitor, we shouldn't be about it as a protege of Christ. If we truly call ourselves Christians, Christ-likes, then our behaviors and our actions should correspond to that of Christ in order for us to make sure that that word itself, Christian, Christ-likes, is having visible effect not just on our words but also in our actions. And that is our charge here, that we live exactly like Christ. We do things exactly like Christ. We believe things that Christ believed, and we discard the things that Christ would discard. So let's continue the series we started a week ago, titled Understanding Yourself, God's View About Man. Understanding oneself, God's view about man. In order for us to maximize a product, we need to understand that product. If not, abuse of such products would take place. In order for us to know how effective to use a product, we need to have understood such product. So if man is not understood, the best of man will still be in the Eden. And for us to unravel the package called man, we need to understand what the producer is talking about his product. The producer in this sense talking about God. As Christians, we believe that we are from God. God is our creator. And for us, we need to understand what God would describe man to be. Anything outside this will be conflicting the producer. And as you said, once we are conflicting with the producer, the usage of a product with what the producer wants us to use it, we would abuse such product. So in order not to abuse such product, we need to understand it. And there is no better book to describe us as a product, man as a product, than Genesis chapter 1. The book of Genesis described the beginning, described everything that God made, and also describes man. So in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, God decided to make man in his own image. That was what we discussed last week, that we are exact image of God, that God did not make another animal, contrary to some other opinions that man is an animal. God decided to make man in his image. In God's image, he made man. The question now is to do what? To do what? To do what exactly? In that same verse of Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, part B stated for what purpose? The purpose for God to make man in his own image is so that man could have dominion and control over every other works of God. Before God got to 26 of that chapter, Genesis chapter 1, God had been at work. He had been creating things, and then he has been creating a lot of things. He created the birds in the air, he created the fishes in the sea, he created all things. He created plants, he created animals. And then when God got to 26, God realized that if there is no one to be in charge of all these things, then the sustainability of these lives of every other creatures would be in doubt. So God decided to make man in his own image so that man can keep and control and take responsibility for the earth. So one of the reasons God made man is so that man can be in charge and in control. Man is supposed to be in charge of the creations of God. In fact, we could say that it was the responsibility that made God decided that he was going to make man in the image. Because if God had created all these things, and for man intellect to be able to comprehend them, then he must be thinking in the same frequency God had thought before creating those things. So God decided to make man in his own image so that man could have control. You could describe someone in control to be a king. You could describe someone in control to be a prince. You could describe someone in control to be a president. You could describe someone in control to be the head of a family. You could someone with responsibility, someone with an art for responsibility. God made man to be in charge, to be responsible for every other things he had made. So what does that tell you? That man is not supposed to live less than being a king. Man is not supposed to live as a slave. The original plan of God for man is so that he could have dominion. It's only a king that has kingdom, and inside his kingdom he has dominion. So God created a kingdom here on earth so that you and I can have dominion and not to be dominated. But what will happen in the case where man is being dominated, especially by other creatures? So what should man do to get hold of his responsibility of dominion, or the commissioning of that responsibility, or the to truly live the life of a dominion? You can't dominate what you do not understand. So the dominion process would require man to be a knowledge-driven man. Understanding gives mastery. Understanding gives mastery. So if man wants to gain mastery, wants to gain dominion, then man must invest into knowledge. Whatever man does not know, he cannot control. Whatever man does not know, he cannot control. For man to be in control, then that man must be in the know. So let's begin to research into the things God has made. Or you want to ask yourself, why is it that science seems to be the most progressive institution on earth? Because science is the one that's interested in understanding what God has made. Science is the one doing research about nature, He's the one doing research about animals. He's the one doing research about things. He's the one doing research about physical world and the invisible world. He's the one doing research. Just like Solomon became the wisest man on earth, he had dominion here on earth.